This episode of the 4PM 411 is a rebroadcast and originally aired at an earlier date, so if the host makes even less sense than usual, that's why. Dave Kindred is scheduled to join the Cheap Seats Saturday morning sports show on January 4th, 2025. Listen at 96.3 FM or via the Mixlr app, or watch the show live on WLCN's YouTube live video stream. Just go to WLCNonline.com and click on the Listen Live or Watch Live badge on the homepage near broadcast time. The following is a presentation of WLCN 96.3 FM and WLCNonline.com. This live video stream is made possible in part by WLCN's live stream technology sponsor, Me Realty, located at 602 Keokuk Street in Lincoln and online at merealty.com. It is 4 p.m., or 4:02 actually, time for the 4 p.m. 411. My name is Loyd Kirby. I am the marketing manager here at WLCN, and welcome to the 4 p.m. 411. We are broadcasting from our studios in rural Atlanta. If you have questions or comments, feel free to give us a call, 217-648-5510, or you can send us an email at 4pm411@WLCNonline.com. Well, unless you've been living under a rock the past few weeks in Logan County, I'm sure you're aware the Lady Railers have been playing some sensational basketball and qualified for the state tournament by virtue of their victory last night up at the LaSalle Peru Super Sectional as they defeated Dixon. And our guest today is a gentleman who knows a little bit, has seen a few basketball games in his time, I guess. Is that fair to say?
I've seen basketball games for, let's say, 65 years now.
All right, very good. So our guest is Dave Kindred, who is the... well, I don't know, do you officially have a job title at this point?
I'm officially... the Morton Lady Potters basketball team has a state championship trophy. Okay. And among the names there are all the stars of the team and the coaches. And there's one little line at the bottom that says, Team Blogger, Dave Kindred. That's me.
Okay, so you're the official team blogger for the, are they the Lady Potters? Or
Lady Potters,
Lady
yes.
Potters, very good. So, and of course, Mr. Kindred is a man with local roots from the Atlanta and Logan County, Lincoln area, has gone on to achieve wonderful things in the field of sports writing. He has won the Red Smith Award. He is the PEN America ESPN. He was a winner of that Lifetime Achievement Award, as well as the Dan Jenkins Medal, and also is in the National Sports Media Hall of Fame. So get too many more awards, we're going to have to extend the show to read them all.
He's been around for a while and has apparently spelled some words right.
All right. Well, these days that's quite an accomplishment. So, but one of your latest endeavors, I guess, has been your most recent book, My Home Team, A Sports Writer's Life and the Redemptive Power of Small Town Girls Basketball. And I think this is a fascinating story. You've, for those who may not know, Mr. Kindred has been on the largest, covered the largest of athletic events, from Super Bowls to World Series to title prize fights and Olympics.
50 Kentucky Derbies.
Oh, wow. Okay, 50 Kentucky Derbies. So how does a man with that background and those, achievements, accomplishments, credentials, how do you wind up writing about a small town girls basketball team?
Well, we were here. My late wife, I met as a senior in high school at Atlanta. Okay. I didn't live in rural Atlanta, by the way, as we are at this moment. I lived in the city. I was an urban guy.
Atlanta proper, then. Yes. And by the way, that is Atlanta High School, not Olympia High School, correct?
Atlanta High School until 1972. I think that's when it became Olympia.
Okay.
So we moved back. We moved away in 1965. I went to Illinois Wesleyan. Mm-hmm. Then I worked at the Pantograph while I was in school, and then 2.5 years after school. Got a job in Louisville, Kentucky. We left in 1965, and we came back in 2010.
Oh, wow.
I had done everything that I ever wanted to do. I'd done more things that I ever dreamed of doing. So I had done everything. Mm-hmm. And my wife was we lived in the country. My wife was getting sick. She was wanted to come home. So we always felt like we were just on a long road trip. We never really left Atlanta or Lincoln or Logan County. We were just gone, and we were coming back someday. That day came in 2010. I went to a basketball game in Morton. A friend's daughter was playing. I had met that daughter earlier in my sister's kitchen in Morton.
Oh, okay.
My sister was there. This girl's mother was there. My wife was there. They all talked about being cheerleaders. So they asked this young girl, Carly Crocker, who was 13 years old at the time, "You going to be a cheerleader, Carly?" Carly kind of raised her chin a click and said, "No, I'm going to be the one they cheer for." So she had me at no. I went to watch her play, and after, at that time, 50 years as a sports writer, I couldn't sit at a basketball game and not want to write about it. So I found out that the father of one of the players had a website, MortonLadyPotters.com.
Okay.
So I just walked out of the stands to him, and with the intention of seeing if he wanted me to write something for him. Like maybe I could volunteer for you, Loyd. I could fill in on 4 o'clock on some Tuesdays.
Absolutely.
So I walked out on the floor, and he was later quoted. His name is Dave Byrne. He was later quoted as saying, "This disheveled old man came out of the stands." And I thought, well, I guess he's talking about me. I don't know. Maybe
I know you look pretty shoveled to me. So
I must have needed a haircut that day. So I started writing about him, and I've never quit.
Oh, okay.
14 years later, at one point in our relationship, I did say, as a joke, "Look, Dave, I've been a professional sports writer my whole life. I should be getting something for doing this." So, as I've written in this book, my home team, by the way, I should drop in a plug. My home team. It's about my growing up in Atlanta, Illinois, and then my career as a newspaperman. In this book, I say that Dave looked at me. He considered my talent, my experience, and my good looks, and said, "How about a box of Milk Duds every game?"
All right. Well.
So over 14 years, I've eaten a lot of Milk Duds.
All right. Well, that seems like fine compensation in my book, although I think it was Jerry Seinfeld who wondered at what point in the lactation process does the milk dud come of being. So once again, we are talking with Dave Kindred. His book is entitled My Home Team, A Sports Writer's Life and the Redemptive Power of Small-Town Girls Basketball. So you've gone from sort of the big stage of writing about professional, world-covered events to small-town basketball. What is there a difference in writing for the smaller, or what is the main difference, I guess, between?
I do write it differently. As a big-time journalist, in quotes there, I felt compelled to write what I saw from both sides, both teams. What was the point of controversy? What was the point of change in the game? I don't do that so much anymore. I write about the Morton girls. I've written 500,000 words.
Oh, wow.
Almost literally. I've written more about them than I've written about any subject in my life, including Muhammad Ali. And I wrote about Ali for 50 years. So I write about from the Morton point of view. I almost never mention another team. I never mention a player on the other team. I always find something to write about. It's not. I take the game seriously. I write about it as if it's serious basketball. I again was on the road at large newspapers when Title IX happened, 1972. I never really wrote about women's athletics, and I kind of felt when I got serious about writing about the Lady Potters that I was kind of paying my dues for times that I didn't pay any attention. Now I'm going to pay attention every game. In fact, I'm kind of famous for that, Loyd, is that people will sit next to me, but they try to talk to me, and I don't talk to them because I'm paying attention.
Sure.
One of the things I've learned in journalism, or in life, really, if you pay attention, you're going to find out things you never knew before.
Right.
So every game, I see something that I've never seen before, or if I've seen it before, I've forgotten it by now. But I watch, and I try to write about that. And Morton was so good for so long that you had to find a different way to write about games that they were winning by 40 points, just like Lincoln now. If you'd been writing about Lincoln every game, you'd have to find something to watch besides the scoreboard. And I'd have found it, because it's the thing that's the same about all of it. The same about all of it is that the girls are just as competitive, just as ambitious, just as dedicated to their craft, to being as good as they can be, as anybody ever. So that's what I see in every game. That's why I like it.
All right, very good. So once again, our guest is Dave Kindred, the nationally renowned author, columnist, sports writer, what was it, blogger?
Blogger, yes.
Yes, so man of many talents. So we've got a few minutes, or actually a couple minutes past our first break, so we'll go ahead and pay homage to our sponsors, but we'll be back in 2 minutes with Dave Kindred. And be sure to tune in next week to the 4 p.m. 411. Tracy Welch will be here, the mayor of Lincoln, as he makes his visit on the first Tuesday of the month. But we'll be back more with Dave Kindred right after this.
This is Corporal Brian Clemens with the Lincoln Police Department. This week, Lincoln-Logan County Crime Stoppers is seeking information in reference to copper gutters that have been stolen off churches in the last couple weeks. On December 6th at 1:54 p.m., 2 subjects stole a copper downspout off the Zion Lutheran Church at 205 Pulaski Street. They were both on bicycles, and one was wearing a Chicago Bears jacket, the other was wearing a tan coat and blue jeans. If you have any information on this crime, please contact Lincoln-Logan County Crime Stoppers anonymously at 217-732-3000 or the Lincoln Police Department at 217-732-2151. Tips leading to an arrest could receive a cash reward up to $1,000. Crime Stoppers only wants your information, not your name.
The Lincoln-Logan County Crime Stoppers Crime of the Week is brought to you by Me Realty, supporting a thriving community safe for families through support of the Crime Stoppers program. Me Realty, 602 Keokuk Street in Lincoln, and online at merealty.com. Full Gospel Evangelistic Center makes an impact locally and beyond through a wide range of events, ministries, and outreaches. Pastors Steve and Debbie Owens invite you to worship Sunday mornings at 10:30 and attend Wednesday night Bible studies at 6:30. Connect with FGEC online, follow them on Facebook, download their app, and visit their new website at myfgec.org with live YouTube video streams as well as recordings of services and special events. Full Gospel Evangelistic Center, 304 North McLean Street in Lincoln. This episode of the 4 p.m. 411 is a rebroadcast and originally aired at an earlier date. So if the host makes even less sense than usual, that's why. Dave Kindred is scheduled to join the Cheap Seats Saturday morning sports show on January 4th, 2025. Listen at 96.3 FM or via the Mixlr app, or watch the show live on WLCN's YouTube live video stream. Just go to WLCNonline.com and click on the Listen Live or Watch Live badge on the homepage near broadcast time. And we are back on the 4 p.m. 411 here with Dave Kindred, author, columnist, blogger, Milk Dud fan. So we've been talking with Mr. Kindred about a lot about his background, his connection with Logan County, growing up in Atlanta. I believe I read that your grandmother resided in Lincoln. Is that correct?
I spent every summer in Lincoln at my grandmother's tavern.
Oh, okay.
Four Hands West Side Tavern. I think it was 127 Sangamon Street, right, just across from the railroad tracks.
Oh, okay, all right,
and played Little League baseball at that field there that used to be right by the school, by Central High School, and then played American Legion ball in Lincoln, and so Lincoln is like my second home. I've loved Lincoln. Used to come back here. I mean, my wife is from Lincoln. She moved to Atlanta high school my senior year.
Oh, okay.
So that's when I met her, and never took my eyes off her after that.
And a little later, we're going to go out and climb the tower so you can see.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that, because to get here, you drive down old Route 66. You turn right at the first road. Well, when I was 17 and 18, I came down Old 66. I passed this first road. I turned right at the next road that led through a tunnel that went over the railroad tracks, then another maybe 2/3 of a mile, third of a mile to my girlfriend's farmhouse.
Okay.
And I think right now, you're right, Loyd. If we climb to the top of this radio tower out here, I can see where that house used to be.
All right. Well, maybe we
won't do that.
No, we'll get my manager, Jim Ash. He's got a good history of climbing out here, but we'll move on from that. So you mentioned going to school here in Logan County, Atlanta High School. What type of student were you? Did you have inclination for writing?
My mother, when I was 15 years old, gave me a typewriter for my birthday. And I sat at our kitchen table in Atlanta, and I waited until I could find words that I would remember as the first words I ever typed. I was 15 years old. I sat there for maybe 10 minutes and finally typed Stanley Frank Musial.
Okay.
Because he was at that time and now the greatest Cardinal ever.
Sure.
All those Albert Pujols fans, excuse me, and I think maybe even Albert would agree to that, actually.
I think I see that.
So, as it turns out, and I look back at that moment, I think I had decided at that moment that's what I was going to be. I was going to be a sports writer. So I've led a charmed life in that I've been able to do what I wanted to do. I've done it forever, never wanted anything else to do, and still doing it. You know, not many things that when you're 15 years old, you decide you want to do that, and you do it for the next 67 years.
That's for sure. So, in terms of writing,
but to further answer your question, I was a good student.
Oh, okay.
I was a very good student.
All right, want to make sure to get
happily, there were only like 25 people in my senior class, but I was the valedictorian.
Oh, all right.
Of a very small class.
So we got that on the record there. So, talking about writing though, I'm kind of interested in your process because, I mean, you know, like last night, for example, I saw you in Dixon. There were several hundred people all watching the same game, but everyone, as you mentioned, there's just certain things that you'll look for, the maybe little nuances or things. How do you know what to look for, or does it just kind of jump out at you at the time? Or
I write it. I just want to tell a story. I want to find a story, and I see a story in every game. And whatever that story is, I'll find a way to tell it. You know, I want it to be different. I want people to feel like they were at the game. I want people to see the game the way I saw it. I want them to feel what I felt. I didn't really intend to write about that game last night until I got about halfway home, and I decided, oh, well, I can write something. Because I didn't do any interviewing. I didn't talk to anybody afterwards, you know, because it was not your best Lincoln game of all time.
Right.
I've seen Lincoln play 10 or 11 times this year. Every time Morton wasn't playing and Lincoln was, I went to watch a Lincoln game. And so I saw them play 10 times before last night. And as I've told Chloe Froby, actually, her mother and her dad, you know, every game was a pleasure. Just a pleasure to watch those people play. Because they play as a complete unit all the time. There's no great flair about it. There's no drama about it. They just are very good at basketball.
Right.
You know, they know how to pass. They know how to cut. They know how to play defense. You know, and it's just, you know, they're not big. There's no superstar. I mean, Chloe Froby is a superstar,
right.
But she's not a superstar because she's 6'4" and can jump over people. She's a superstar because she's the smartest basketball player that I've seen for a long time. And I'm talking about college, pros, whatever. She knows what she's doing every minute she's on the floor. So it's always just a pleasure to watch them play. And so I got halfway home and I said, well, I've got to write something. And I did. It wasn't a typical thing that I would write because I didn't really write about the game much. But because they had just played Morton.
Right.
And Morton was not one of Morton's best teams, but they were pretty good. They'd won 25, 26 games, and Lincoln handled them easily, just as Lincoln had handled everybody easily.
Right.
You know, but last night's game was a little different. Dixon played a kind of a gimmick defense, some kind of zone with two people on Chloe all the time.
Right.
So Chloe had to move inside and it was a different kind of Lincoln offense.
Right. It was very reminiscent of the title game last year when they faced Nazareth. So, but yeah, I happen to have a phone in front of me here, and let me see if you recognize these words. With maybe a minute left, the Lincoln High School cheering section of very loud teenage boys began its celebration chant, which was, of course, quote, "No school Friday, no school Friday." That great thing was made possible tonight by the undefeated Lincoln girls basketball team playing keep away to ensure its super sectional victory over Dixon at LaSalle, Peru. All those reluctant scholars, then, will absent themselves from philosophy class Friday morning. They will watch the Lady Railers play at Illinois State's Redbird Arena, not Sefcu Arena, Redbird Arena in a Class 3A semifinal at 11:15. The opponent will be Lombard Montini, a perennial power, 29-7 this season. So how do you choose those particular words? Like we were just having the conversation here, and you mentioned the young lady in the kitchen, and she looked up and I think it was with a click of her chin. Like, how does that? Is that just embedded like from your background, or does it just?
Well, I've just been a reader my whole life. I've read everything forever, and how do you explain what you remember or what you think? But again, I was halfway home driving, and I wanted to write something. So what did I have? Well, things that happen during a game that you comment on to somebody, or it's fun, it makes you laugh. And when those boys started chanting "No school Friday, no school Friday," yeah, I got that.
Yeah.
So it made a interesting little lead into 200 words or 300 words on the game.
Right. So when you're writing a story like that, do you have a process where you sort of look at the overall big picture of what happened at this game and then kind of describe the things that made it in its totality, or do you go the opposite way and say this event happened, now how can I weave those together?
I keep play-by-play of the game. That's why people don't talk to me, because I don't talk to them, because I'm writing down what happens on every score. I'll have Lincoln down the right-hand side of the page and Dixon down the left-hand side, and I'll have every score. And if you're keeping score like that, you have to be paying attention.
Sure.
Every baseball game I ever went to, I kept score, because otherwise you're looking for the popcorn. Or, I don't want popcorn. I want the baseball. That's what I want at a basketball game. So I pay attention to what's going on, and you see a story developing. You see the offense is doing this or the defense is doing that, and that's, to me, that's the fun of it. That's why I go to a game. It's like going to the theater. You see the beginning, middle, and end of a story. And every basketball game you go to, it's right there. Somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. That's always a story. So I just keep good notes, and I pay attention. I've seen a lot of games, and so it always just comes pretty easy. Not all the time, but that's half the fun, is when it's not easy, is trying to find a way to tell the story anyway.
Oh, yeah, because you got that. Well, I don't know if bloggers have deadlines, or are you relaxed on that?
Well, for a while there, I sat at a place with Morton with 4 women of my age. We were called Grandma Rowe. I was kind of an honorary grandma.
Oh, okay.
And so one of them, whose name was Joan Krupa, she was the grandmother of one of Morton's best players, now at Harvard, Katie Krupa. And she once jokingly complained to me, "Dave, you're keeping me up past my bedtime, waiting to read your story." So I developed a grandma deadline.
Oh, okay.
So I'm kind of like I'm working for a newspaper. I go home and I write it as if I'm on deadline.
Okay.
It makes me feel like I'm 20 years old again, and it's fun to do. And it's a challenge to do it.
Sure.
So, I mean, I could go to bed and wake up the next morning, but that's not what I like about it. I like the adrenaline part of it.
All right, very cool. So once again, our guest is Dave Kindred, renowned national and local sportswriter of all types. Once again, we will be here next Tuesday with Tracy Welch, the mayor of Lincoln, but we've got a few more minutes with Dave Kindred. We'll go ahead and take our second break of the show, and we'll be back with more with Mr. Kindred. Once again, if you have questions or comments, 217-648-5510, or send us an email at 4pm411 at WLCNonline.com. Dave Kindred is scheduled to join the Cheap Seats Saturday Morning Sports Show on January 4th, 2025. Listen at 96.3 FM or via the Mixlr app, or watch the show live on WLCN's YouTube live video stream. Just go to WLCNonline.com and click on the Listen Live or Watch Live badge on the homepage near broadcast time. Whether you're buying or selling your home, the brokers of Me Realty will work with you to get the deal done. As one of Central Illinois' top producing offices for decades, Me Realty has the experience to guide you through the process. You want results? Call the brokers of Me Realty at 217-735-5424, stop by the office at 602 Keokuk Street in Lincoln, or check out local listings online at merealty.com.
Culver's is a family restaurant. To me, that means being the place that puts a smile on everyone's face. We're famous for our cooked-to-order butter burgers and frozen custard made daily inside our restaurants. But we've always believed more menu options mean more ways to brighten your day. We source the finest chicken to bring you our tenders and chicken sandwiches. And our cheese curds. They're a Wisconsin tradition we're proud to share with you. So take the next meal shift off and let us take care of you. Welcome to Delicious.
Culver's, home of the Butterburger, 2530 Woodlawn Road in Lincoln. This episode of the 4 p.m. 411 is a rebroadcast and originally aired at an earlier date. So if the host makes even less sense than usual, that's why. Dave Kindred is scheduled to join the Cheap Seats Saturday Morning Sports Show on January 4th, 2025. Listen at 96.3 FM or via the Mixlr app, or watch the show live on WLCN's YouTube live video stream. Just go to WLCNonline.com and click on the Listen Live or Watch Live badge on the homepage near broadcast time. And we are back on the 4 p.m. 411 here for just a few more minutes with Dave Kindred. We do have a caller, so if I've mastered the technology here. Caller, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, let me turn this up so we can hear you. And Mr. Kindred, if you'd put on the lovely headphones in front of you, I believe our caller has a question for you. Go right ahead if you would, please.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Kindred, do you happen to know Kevin Hieronymus?
I've heard of him. I haven't seen him for hours, though.
Yeah, he's a big writer up, I think, in Bureau County for some Bureau County paper or news place up there. I played baseball with him down in Atlanta.
He sat next to me at the game last night.
He did?
Yes.
Oh, Kimbo, man, he was our third baseman.
Well, that comes after my time, of course, because he started high school at Olympia, I think.
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah, he was a little bit older than me, but I just love him to death.
No, in fact, there are four sports writers from Atlanta, and we all got together like last summer. It was Kip Cheek, Randy Kindred, Kevin, and me. And so when I knew that I was going to be up in his territory, I sent him a note. So he came to the game last night and sat with me. We were on the third row behind the bench.
Oh, well, praise God. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. I miss Kevin. He's a good guy, really good guy. And I knew that Cheek's name, and Randy Kindred, he wrote for the Panagraph, didn't he?
Yeah, she's my third cousin. It took us 30 years to figure that out. But he is my third cousin.
All right. Well, thank you for the call.
Okay. God bless.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So I guess we don't need these anymore because we're just in here. So I got a text message, and I believe we did cover this earlier, but actually, let me go in here so I can read it from my phone.
I'll give you a different answer.
All right. This gentleman was wondering what tavern your grandma owned in Lincoln and where was it? I guess we did cover this.
Four Hands West Side Tavern. I believe it was 127 South Sangamon. It was between Lauer's Hardware Store and the Pluth Tin Shop. Okay. Right now, that building where the tavern was is some kind of commando gear, some kind of martial arts place.
Okay.
I don't think that's the right name of it, but it's something like that.
Okay, very good. So, yeah, I knew. Once you said that, I recognized the name. I think I saw another question in here in the email. Have you ever, or do you cover, or have you ever covered any University of Illinois games?
I covered the University of Illinois basketball game at the University of Kentucky in 1968.
Oh, wow.
But that's about it.
Oh, okay.
I really never have. No, I've never covered it. I went to one Illinois football game since I've been back in Illinois, but that was just as a spectator maybe 7 or 8 years ago.
Okay. And for those who may not know, then, can you kind of take us the career path real quick of, obviously you started here in Logan County, but then where did you...
Well, my first job for which I got paid was a summer job at the Lincoln Daily Courier, where every 2 weeks somebody went on vacation and I filled in for them. So I was like the sports editor one week, I was a photographer another week, I was the society editor, another week.
It probably came in handy with your group of grandmas there.
It did. I learned about taffeta. And then went to Illinois Wesleyan on a Pantograph scholarship. Pantograph was paying half my way to Wesleyan. I worked at the newspaper for the other half. After graduation, I worked there for 2.5 years at the Pantograph, and then went to the Louisville, Kentucky Courier-Journal for 11 years. From there, I went to the Washington Post for almost 10 years. From there, went to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, the big Atlanta,
right?
Not the famous Atlanta, but the big Atlanta. Mm-hmm. And worked at other places along the way. Worked at Sporting News, Golf Digest. Did a little bit of everything. Wrote 4 or 5 books, now 10 or 12 books. So I've just, my mantra has always been writers write. Mm-hmm. That's what I decided when I was 15 years old with that typewriter. Mm-hmm. I was going to do that as long as I could, and I've been very lucky to have done that.
Very nice. So speaking of writers write, before we move on and wrap things up here, I wanted to get your take on, do you have any kind of thoughts in general about journalism today and how it seems to me like rush, be the first to get it out there, which I think there's always been a concern with deadlines and being first, but being first for the sacrifice of being correct, I think maybe is...
It's not the journalism that I grew up with, not the journalism that I like. There's some papers that are still ambitious and still have enough money to be ambitious. But most newspapers are zombies. They're zombies walking. It's the Walking Dead. The Pantograph. When I worked at the Pantograph, I was one of maybe 5 full-time sports writers on a staff of a respected regional newspaper that sold 50,000 newspapers a day. Now there's one person in the sports department.
Crazy.
And the newspaper produced somewhere else, Iowa, Indiana, somewhere. Deadlines are like 2 in the afternoon. So Randy Shearer, I saw him at the game last night. If he wrote about the game, it will appear 2 days later. So, journalism isn't dead. It's just not being treated very kindly.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. And we were talking about journalism today and topics of relevance today. We talked a little bit about it earlier. Saw you last night at the Lady Railers game. Do you have any kind of impressions of the Lady Railers? I don't know if you do impressions or not, but
now my jumping days are over. I like the picture that I think I first saw. Tina Lowry posted it of the 5 girls jumping all in unison
and catch them in midair.
My jump is about 3 inches off the floor now. As I said earlier, I love to watch them play. I'm rooting as strongly as I can root for them tomorrow or Thursday, whenever they play. Friday, 11:15, second game against Montini. Montini is always a good team. Private school, they can recruit, and they do recruit. So it's not quite a fair competition, private schools against public schools.
Right.
But Lincoln is very good. Lincoln has beaten very good 4A teams, handled them well. We'll see what happens, but I'm rooting for Lincoln.
All right, we appreciate that. So once again, our guest has been Dave Kindred, renowned sports writer. If folks are interested in your book or any following along, if you happen to blog something or write something about the Lady Railers, how can they find your
Well,
work?
the book, of course, is available at Amazon,
Okay.
or any reputable book dealer can get it for you. My Home Team. It's published by Public Affairs.
Okay.
It's half my time as a newspaperman. The rest of my time, the better time, writing about girls' high school basketball, which I take seriously all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I write on Facebook. During the COVID thing, I wrote every day for 323 days in a row.
Oh, wow.
Facebook, just Dave Kindred on Facebook.
Okay.
And the stories that I do on basketball now are on my website. I mean, on online, on Facebook. Every time there's a game that I'm at, I'll write something.
All right. Very good. Well, will you be there Friday?
I will be there Friday, and I'll be there Saturday, too.
All right. Very good.
I want to be there when they win the game that they lost last year.
Absolutely. Got to like the positive attitude. So, Mr. Kindred, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Loyd. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, once again, next week we will have Tracy Welch, the mayor of Lincoln, on the 4 p.m. 411. So feel free to call in or email questions of him. And in the meantime, thanks to Dave Kindred for making the trek to rural Atlanta. And we'll see if we can shimmy up that antenna now. I know the number for 911 if one of us gets hurt, so we'll be good. So once again, this has been the 4 p.m. 411. I'm Loyd Kirby. Thank you for watching and listening. This live video stream is made possible in part by WLCN's live stream technology sponsor, Me Realty, located at 602 Keokuk Street in Lincoln, and online at merealty.com. The preceding program is a presentation of WLCN 96.3 FM and WLCNonline.com.